If you guys have anything particular I'm going to talk about. I was going to kick it off with the Arch AUR. Again. Yeah. Well, it's better than when it's slow, right? Okay. So did everyone vote on the straw poll? Yeah. It's an important straw poll. Ooh. Welcome to Linux Saloon, a place to discuss tech, open source, and where Linux is always on tap. Each show I've talked about Linux projects such as a distribution, desktop environment, or application. We also chat about the news or any variety of topic from the community. I think it's Linux tech and open source related. On the table for discussion, I'm Nate, a Linux fitness and vintage tech enthusiast.
Kicking buttons, staying alive as always, Nate.
I can feel the enthusiasm just coming right through the monitor or the camera, whatever.
Or the camera, whatever.
Yeah. So if you'd be so kind as to hit that like button and subscribe if you have not done so. Better yet, you can join the Discord voice chat, contribute to the conversation, help me to talk less. You can also join our Discord and Telegram groups in for the off weeks. And also be sure to do the StrawPoll, cubicule8.com/polls. We got a fantastic poll, something that's really hard hitting for the community that inquiring minds want to know the answer to, which is, how long will Zebedee's current distro last? So interesting results right now, but you can check that out, cubicule8.com/polls. On the dock for today, we got a news flight night. We'll do a little housekeeping after the news flight. And then Ben of Storm OS fame says he's got an update for his OS. So don't stay on the edge of your seats too far. You might fall off if you wait too long.
Be careful, folks. This one's a doozy.
It is a doozy for sure. So, but first, what have we been doing in Linux and tech? And so Warthunder, he started talking about his IT woes. And so I'm like, whoa, this is great. Well, actually, it was Eric who said, whoa, this is great show content. And so we put the brakes on it and said, hold the phone, press pause, suspend that process, if you will. And so Warthunder, give us a little background and what's going on here about, say it was with Tailscale, and then you cross your streams. You're never supposed to cross the streams. Space-time continuum, riff,
No,
whole nothing.
I'm starting to get the feeling you like putting me on the spot. I'm just saying.
Well, it is entertaining for me.
Fair enough. So I've been trying to figure out something easy for me and my wife to use to connect back to my home server here. I only do it for her and I. I've got Jellyfin, Image, Nextcloud, and all that fun stuff. And, most of the time you host a VPN or something like that. And so I've bounced around a little bit. I've been lately messing around with Netbird and Tailscale interchangeably, trying to figure out which one I prefer more, because they basically do the same thing. It's just some things are a little bit different in terms of how they connect and whatnot, but it's basically the same protocol and everything. I'd even messed with trying to have my Ubiquity router be a WireGuard server and other things. One of the things I've been messing with, though, was I could never figure out why. So I'll step back a second. I like to connect to my services like I do at home. That's how ideally a VPN or a VPN-like thing to me would actually work. It's as if I'm home, I take my phone, I hit Jellyfin, and it just connects to the server. There's no riffraff or anything. My phone doesn't even think that it's not at home in that regard. Which means I need to point it back to my home router and say, this is DNS. So when you ask for Jellyfin, you go exactly where my router would tell you to go. And for whatever reason, and maybe this is just like we were talking about pre-show, I woke up Monday morning and for some reason lost 100 IQ and dropped all my marbles on the floor. And if y'all have found any of them somewhere, if you'd let me know, I'd appreciate it.
So what, you dropped down to what, 130? Go from 230 to 130? Is that what happened?
It's been awful. Even at work, dealing with people and whatnot, it's just been like, I just can't catch a break. And it's just like simple issues that I should be able to solve. I just can't do it. For whatever reason, my brain just doesn't compute.
Buy, play, repair.
So, long story short, I've played with Tailscale for probably close to a year. I've installed it, uninstalled it. I never really used it a ton because we don't travel a whole lot. But when I do, it'd be nice to connect back to the server. So in the last few months, I've started taking it seriously, but I could never get my custom DNS to work. Whether I pointed it at Cloudflare, whether I pointed it at my home router, could never get it to work. And so I just thought, it's probably something with Tailscale. It's probably some more complicated than I'm used to. Let me try another service. And what I found out with Netbird is their Android app is kind of broken. Doesn't work quite right. Everything else seems to work okay, but the Android app is special. We'll leave it at that. And so today, I host a service called, I think it's called Lube Logger. And what that is like for maintaining your vehicles, you can keep track of oil changes and supplies and repairs and things. And so then
that's
when
cool.
you sell the car or trade it, you can print out like a Carfax like report on your car and say, I did all these things to my car. These are all the services I did. And that's something that I've done recently. So we're like in the middle of, we're like 20 minutes from home and it's like, oh crap, I forgot to add something to that list. And so I popped on and I had Tailscale running this morning and I was like, you know what, for fun, we're going to try Netbird and we're going to try Tailscale. Netbird fell flat on its face. Tailscale actually worked for me and worked very responsibly. But again, I still had a DNS problem until first thing this morning. Going to the control panel, for whatever reason, there's this little tick box when you add your own custom domains that says override local domain. If you don't check that box, it will always use your local domain until that fails, and then it will resolve with your custom domain. So in my experiments for the last several months, it didn't work because I didn't turn it on. And so I feel really stupid at the moment because I should know better than that, but I didn't. And so that's been a real, I kind of ground my gears this morning because then, you know, we were out in the middle of the countryside. I pulled my phone on data. I had that setting on, pull up Jellyfin, worked immediately. Pull up the Lou Blocker, worked immediately. Very responsive. And I was just like, it's just the week I've been through this week.
So I use Tailscale. Tailscale is great. I have multiple tailnets that I connect into, one for work, one for home, stuff like that. No complaints there. I think it's pretty great. But I'm curious. So I don't know anything about Netbird. I see Jinda did put a link, and so I'll make sure that's in the show notes, and maybe we can read up on it later. But what is it that is Netbird supposed to be a very similar type of a thing then?
Yeah, it's a very similar peer-to-peer style, like mesh network. I believe that's kind of how they describe it, because technically it's not a VPN, but it kind of thing as a VPN can do. The key differences that I've experienced is that I believe Netbird has more Europe servers or EU servers, at least based upon the domain addresses that I got. And two, the server side is fully open source and you can host your own Netbird server.
Okay.
They just provide you all the tools and everything. You spin up your own Docker or whatever you want to do. Versus Tailscale doesn't. You can use Headscale, but that's a community run effort versus something coming directly from Tailscale themselves. Also, Netbird will let you do things like when I set up my account for Tailscale, I had to use like either a Google, Microsoft, some other kind of authenticator to authenticate my account, unless I would probably self-host it. With Netbird, you don't have to. You just need an email to set up an account and run that. Otherwise, I think they pretty much offer the same thing. I think Netbird will let you get away with more users, but like it's pretty much a wash when you start looking at them side by side. My general issues has been latency, and if I wasn't trying to like, this is my other bonehead move, and then I'll move on for the week. When I set up my TrueNAS server on this current Core Ultra board that I put in this year when I replaced my server, I never enabled transcoding on the server, and I just hadn't noticed for the last 6 months because I'm usually watching content here at the house. And so I pulled it up on my phone over VPN, and it just kept saying playback failed. I was like, what do you mean playback failed? Well, I didn't have so in TrueNAS, you can pass through your GPU with just like a tick box. And then in Jellyfin, it's like normal. You tell it it's like /dev/ I think for the Intel devices, it's like D128. And that tells it, use my integrated graphics to transcode this media for this server. I just never set that back up when I re-imported everything and re-imported the ZFS pool and whatnot. So good news is my media box can just raw accept footage live of my server without any transcoding, without any frame drops. So that's cool. But I forgot to turn that back on when I set that back up. But that came up because I was trying to do stuff remotely, and it's like, oh, I can't do this. But I was seeing a lot more buffering on Netbird, and I want to say it's probably location. I'm in the Midwest in Indiana, so I'm wondering if Netbird just doesn't have any infrastructure near here, if it's mostly overseas and there's just too much latency round trip to do that. But someone else can correct me on that one. I'm still new to this whole game, so for now I'm just going to stick with Tailscale because I think that's simple enough. I can just hand to my wife and go, if you need to get back to the house, this is how you do it. Here you go. You push a button and then it connects you back to the house.
Right. So
Listening
the
to all this,
I run the
Sorry.
self-hosted Netbird on my network, and he's right. They're almost identical. The only reason I run Netbird instead of Tailscale is that I needed reverse proxying, which it has built into it, and Tailscale does not. So like if I'm working on something or working with a client and I need them to be able to look at URL on my machine, I can send them a reverse proxy address and they can look at it.
That's nice. I know one thing that Tailscale does that Netbird doesn't is they will actually give you a domain. I'm not going to tell you what mine is because I don't want it DDoS, but they'll actually give you a certificate and a domain, one to your account that you can have. It's usually an animal dot something with a tail dot whatever your network is. It's kind of cute that way, but
listening to all of this, I am just so glad I have never got into servers. I have enough trouble dealing with Linux on its own without all of this Tailscale and everything else you're doing and linking back to this. And no, I sit in front of my desk and I do my bits and pieces. If I'm out, it's my phone and nothing else. Life's simple.
Well, if you don't need it, you don't need it. If you do, you do need it. So
it's also an interesting study.
Being able to,
sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, being able to access remotely my local network from anywhere has a lot of value, So
yeah, Tailscale. I really hope they have a lot of corporate customers and they're making good money because, to be honest, I've been using them for a few years now and I have not paid. I probably should. I don't use it daily. I think if I were to use it and rely on it, because right now I use it as a convenience. If I'm out, like Warthunder saying, like if I need to get to my network or something, then great. But if I can't do it, it's like, oh well, I'll just wait till I get home. It's not like the mission critical. But if it were, I'd pay for it. Anyway, what I wanted to say was, it's amazing how self-hosting. We could do things. I remember back in the day. What was the photo system before Google Photos? It'll come to me. It'll pop into my head. But I used to host a
Flickr or something like that.
No, I mean that was a hosted service. There was a project that you could host yourself. I can't think of it right now, but no. Was
like
it
Unmitch or something like that?
Pixel? It was some Pixel something like. It'll pop in my head anyway. So I hosted a server for my family, and this was like pre-cloud days, right? So the only way you could host a server is if you knew someone, or you were an IT guy, that kind of thing. So what I was gonna add to this was that I think that, to Zeb's point, like that's the strength of cloud services. And yes, we like to self-host because we're nerds and we can do it. But for the average person, the things that we used to do that really only we could do, have become just commonplace. Everybody uses Apple Photos or Google Photos or some similar thing to it, whether they're technical or not. In most cases because it's just built in, but still, they have the ability to share and let other people see it and do all these things that used to be the purview of the IT nerd or the IT specialist, that kind of thing. And so, to Zeb's point, you don't have to know how to do these things anymore to get that stuff to work. Now, of course, we all would rather self-host because then it's more private and we control all the data and all that stuff. But it definitely adds And even that, honestly, I think has gotten much easier than it used to be. But still, yeah, it's just, and it hasn't taken that long, right? I mean, it sounds like it's a long time to say 10 years or whatever, but anyway, that's it.
So, full scale for me. Feel free to speak up any time. But is that what is that called? I can't. I listened to some country music today, so I forgot how to read. What is that?
Picasso?
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
You're
that's
muted, full
Picasso.
scale.
Yeah, it was Picasso.
Yeah, full scale, you're muted, mate. I didn't hear a word of that.
I think Image is the one that is like the new hotness, I think, and self-hosting picture stuff.
Yeah, I'll say this in my experience when I was looking at these mesh networks, I tried both. And if you just want something to get back to your house, to your machine quickly, that's quick, easy to set up, NetBird's the way to go, in my opinion. Tailscale's very, very nice, but I think really what NetBird's done is they've taken the same idea and they put a nicer interface on it, even on the self-hosted side. You have a nice web interface to control all your nodes. And so that's why I chose it. One of the reasons I chose it over Tailscale.
They do a really good job explaining things too. So like as you're going through the interface and whatnot, there's plenty of places to hover your mouse over with like a little eye or a bubble. And they kind of do a pretty good job explaining things. And then if it's not there, they have a pretty good docs area too that I've looked at,
Right.
generally speaking.
Do you know, does NetBird have like a system tray applet that you can use like Tailscale does? Okay.
It does.
So I use Tailscale at work. We actually set that up, and the users there really like it over the traditional OpenVPN client thing that
Sure.
I would say is ropey at times. So, but yeah, I haven't really. I know you showed me NetBird before, but I've never actually dug into it. I guess maybe I've kind of sort of got my solution. But what's that?
I was just going to say, what I ended up doing is I set up a gateway on Linode, and that's actually my hosted NetBird server also. And my internal LAN on my internal work network, that uses that gateway because I've got 2 firewalls on that machine. So they don't go out through my local connection. All the requests go out through it. And I feel a lot better about that. So
And it sounds like a very robust solution. I think if you asked me to set it up, I might have a bit of a hard time. But
I mean, it was fairly easy to set up, and they've got like Warthunder said, they've got really, really good documentation on setting everything up. But if you need just like a quick, dirty way to do it, you can go to NetBird, set up an account, add 2 nodes, download the client onto them, and they're working. It's that simple.
I'll have to try. Does it have something equivalent to the exit node?
The what?
Exit node. So exit node is where
that's my gateway. Yeah.
Okay, so the gateway. Okay.
Yeah.
All of your traffic from the client can get routed through your home network.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I
like that feature because if I'm at off some place where I don't trust them, I like having that ability to connect and do that.
Yeah, so like when I travel, I always, have my laptop with me, and I can always connect back to my network via NetBird easily and quickly, and I know it's secure.
So Warthunder said something about with Tailscale. I haven't actually seen this. This must be a newer feature, but you can actually get a like reverse proxy basically through Tailscale as well.
I don't think it was reverse proxy. It was they can give you a certificate. So like if you want to expose specific services, and maybe it is, maybe I just don't understand what a reverse proxy is, but so if you want to expose certain services from your internal network externally, they'll give you a domain and a certificate so you can do that.
Is that
Let me see what they call it. Yeah, I know the big thing with NetBird is they make doing reverse proxy like super easy.
looks like it's the tailscale serve command. So it lets you share a local service securely within your tailscale network or your tailnet. So we choose tailscale. Okay, tailscale funnel. Oh, interesting. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So like if I wanted to set up my own like Minecraft server or whatever and let other people be able to access my internal whatever, could do it that way.
Yeah, and that's something else that, and I'm not saying I won't ever like try NetBird again. I still have it installed. I'm still going to mess with it and whatnot. That is something I do want to do. I found out I can host services now. I have a Proxmox machine that is my fun computer. It's where I usually play with Linux virtual machines and whatnot. I want to host game servers on there, and then the whole point of doing like Minecraft, or you can do your own GTA game servers, or I'm a big BeamNG fan. In fact, I now realized my tomorrow is going to be gone because they did a new update. So I will be gone for the next 6 to 12 hours playing that. But you can host your own multiplayer server there, and then I can just point my friends or whatever to, hey, connect to my tailnet here, and then I don't have to punch holes in my firewall, which is something I really don't want to punch holes in my router or firewall. I feel like it's a really bad idea if I can avoid it. And
Yeah, I
this
agree.
kind of just gives me a way to do it. Because like if something bad happens, I can just reach over and just turn the server off, or reach over and turn the tailscale off on the server, and then it's off, and then the hole's gone. So I don't necessarily have to worry about that, but I'm still learning in this. I'm still very new to the server side of things.
Well, I think it's the fun part. I mean, desktop Linux I think is the most fun. But I think that like a lot of the server stuff is also fun, especially when you start incorporating different services and functions, and you get into like your different kind of like backup strategies or redundant, like building like out a redundant net of things and so forth. That like it's fun. And then if you get into virtual machines and Docker, that's also very fun. I just think there's so many different little fun aspects to it that to me it's a never-ending exploration of stuff. So
yeah,
definitely
can.
But I mean, but again, some people like Anna Rita and Zeb, you mentioned, no interest in doing that, and like that's totally cool, because then you still have a huge sliver or slice rather, of the open source fun, and just you kind of select like a la carte what is it that you really where you want to play. So yeah, that's good stuff. Now I'm going to look into that for Tailscale. So I use Tailscale all the time, and I do have a home server, and there's actually a very precise, very specific reason why I want to have that feature. And I may end up, if this works out, I may end up purchasing Tailscale for myself, because like we had bought it at work, something I kind of piloted out there, and so everybody loves it. It's not for everybody, but it's for specific people, because it's it's more expensive than the open VPN client that we can have as much of. That's with a firewall. But NetBird seems like a really neat idea too. But I think if I try to tell people, hey, we're not going to use Tailscale. Oh, there's actually one lady, real funny. She like said, hey, I can't get my Tailspin to work. I'm like, yeah, that's what it's called. So it's good times. So I'm curious, Drew, do you do anything like host any services at home that you want to access remotely? I'm just curious because you're first time joining Linux Saloon, and I want to make sure that make you as uncomfortable as comfortable as possible.
Yeah, so I use Tailscale. I mean, when you did the Linux Cast podcast, when you recorded your audio and then dropped it in this box, basically, that's basically using a file drop with part of a Go server, actually. And I'm using Tailscale for basically an SFTP service for the three of us to share files, especially bigger files like,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
multi-megabytes, sometimes gigabytes, and any other way. Like we tried to use Nextcloud for a while. That did not work well, especially in file sharing. It did for certain things, especially on the lower end. If you're just talking about, markdown files, it works fantastic. But when you had 500 to 1.5 gigabyte video files, it kind of choked. And yes, I tried many, many different things in terms of changing the parameters on the PHP INI. So yes, the Tailscale works well for us, especially in a multi-user environment. I have not used Netberg. I have no experience with that. But the SFTP service, super old school, easily able to file share large files, and with Tailscale works fantastic.
I had no idea that was even a thing with Tailscale until today, and that's very cool, super cool. And now I have something new to explore, which is why I like Linux Saloon, because people always teach me things. So there's never a day I don't learn something. It's good stuff. Well, Warthunder, you survived your week. Did you get those 100 IQ points back by today?
We'll find out come Monday because I'll need it.
Well, they might still. I guess they could still be on vacation, I suppose.
How rude! They didn't take me with them.
That is true. It is kind of rude. All right, we'll go ahead and hop into the straw poll. If you haven't done the straw poll already, if you could go to cubiclenate.com/polls. We have a very this is like a very important, very what's on everybody's mind turn into a straw poll, specifically about Mr. Zebedee Boss. He has been on a distribution now for a little while, a little longer than normal. It's Bazite, right? Or Bazite? However you want to call it.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I think for this week, you should have changed the name to a troll poll, not a straw poll.
Oh, you're right. So on this troll poll, straw poll, we want to know how long will Zeb's current distribution last? And we've got quite a few votes in. So if you have not done so yet, I'll patter a bit to give people some time here to do the straw poll for this important question. So now, Eric, you've known Zeb for many years now, and I think do we know what his record is? Is it like 6 months or something like that? 5 months?
Well,
I can't
let's be fair,
very long.
because when I first met him, he was pretty devoted to one distro.
Oh, that's true.
Mhm.
And
That's
he was
true.
on that distro pretty regular. I mean, I think that was like his just where he was. And then when
Yep.
that had some issues, that sort of started a lot of this, kind of kicked this off. So I think he's a lot like me. Like it's a combination of curiosity, right? I mean, what's out there, to try things. If anything, there's more distros now than there have ever been. So, lots of different things to try. And, also just not always having a great time. Zeb is very good at finding glitches. He likes to use multiple monitors. He's high DPI. So his hardware setup tends to find some flaws, and so that's been an issue. So yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like he is justified in moving around, but then also just has some general curiosity as well.
Yeah, just to clarify, when you were talking about, I used to be on a distro, one particular distro for a long time. You're right. It was from 2014 to 2020, and it was my beloved Peppermint OS. And the only problem I had with it was the lead developer passed away. So there were never, yes, you get issues. You get issues with all Linux distros, but I was just lucky enough to know Mark Greaves very well. And he helped me out of most of those problems. So that was going to be my question to you guys. What do you class as your main distro? Is it the distro that you have on your machine the longest and use on a day-to-day? Because distro hopping doesn't necessarily mean you're changing your main distro. So you might need to clarify that somewhat.
Well, this
That's
is
a fair
true.
point.
And so, like all the polls we do, they're kind of shoot from the hip,
Tongue in
you know?
cheek.
Yeah, they're tongue cheek. There's not really a seriousness in most of this. It's just kind of like a conversation. So it can be whatever you want it to be. So I'm like, I would say in my mind, distro hopping is I've switched over my main machine, my main workflow, and I'm trying things out, or I'm testing something out with the intent of moving to another distribution. Like maybe my primary machine is still on what I know, but I have a strong number two that is, you know, that is my testing machine for what I might move to next. You know, your
Do you?
your point man.
I mean, we know that if we did this poll for you, that there'd only be one answer, which would be that you would be on the same distro for the rest of your life.
Yes, but I mean,
do you
things
have
could
a number
change.
two?
Distribution.
Yeah.
So it's kind of split between two. Like Fedora is a strong contender. I really like Fedora. There's some things that like Fedora just doesn't
So
quite.
another RPM based distro.
Yes, and then my number two, and it's a very strong number two, is MX Linux. So those are both very different. I would say those are two different approaches to Linux. Basically, MX Linux is a little bit more tried and tested, lower resource, although XFCE is becoming heavier as time goes on. So I mean, Plasma is a good option on there as well, but also it has that gaming focus to it with the hardware enabled kernel and so forth. So you have it's kind of to me it's a bit of a bridge between what this is not to does not take a shot at Drew, but because he's a distribution maintainer of a Debian distribution. But Debian is kind of stale, and I don't like my crackers stale. I like those buttery, delicious. Although he's got this Butterfs Debian, which is a very interesting distribution. It's on the list of things to try here too. Anyway, so there's Fedora is very forward leaning. I think Tumbleweed is actually not quite as forward leaning as Fedora, and then Debian is kind of a strong stable, and so they're different. I respect all the different approaches, and so those would be the three that I would use at any point for a modern system.
Okay. Got it. Actually, and to Zeb's point, I do what I call distro screening before I do distro hopping, right? So that would be either a secondary physical device, like an extra laptop, or a virtual machine. And actually, it's usually both. So it's like a virtual machine, then a secondary laptop that I'm not worried about wiping, and then if I absolutely love something, or conversely absolutely hate whatever's on my main machine, then yeah, so it's a multifaceted process. It's not just because really the days of just cowboying it, where you're just like, yeah, just stick that ISO in there and see what happens. That's not something I really do much anymore. I did for a long time, and it led to some very frustrating situations. I learned a lot, not by choice, but yeah, I don't really do that much anymore.
Yeah, for me, it's like when after I install a distribution, I have to like dial it in. It takes me weeks to dial something in. Like on a brand new machine, a brand new install, it takes me a long time to really get it dialed into exactly how I want it because I'm kind of picky. But then also sometimes that target moves a little bit over time, so it's not really a I don't know, it's not really a set target. But anyway, so does that kind of answer your distro hopping thing? Do you screen your distros like Eric or myself? Or do you?
Not normally. I just tend to. Somebody talks about a distro. Somebody talks about a particular feature. Somebody talks about an upgrade that's just happened, and I think, oh, I'll have a look at that. And as you guys know, I've got my 2 NVMe drives in my machine. One of them's got Windows on it. Another one has got Windows games, Linux games, and room for other distributions. And then my other NVMe drive is currently split between Bazite and Ultramarine. But Bazite is the one that I'm on as you say, for about a month now, Nate. And I did fail in what I was trying to do, because I think we talked about it on the early edition, where I said I was just going to run the 2 distros and also test not upgrading it every day and going in, oh, is there something new there? And just because it's meant to be able to upgrade itself. So I failed that miserably. But I do like to test other distros, especially when people talk about new features. And somebody mentioned Ultramarine is a better Fedora. So I tried it, and yeah, for what I've tried so far, it's pretty good. Is it better than Fedora? I don't know. For what I need to use it for, it works. But I'm going to try and stay on Bazite as long as I can. And in fact, Bazite is going to become my main daily driver because of the recent Microsoft GDID fiasco, which we can talk about a bit later if you want. But that, for me, is a step too far. It was down to the guy's own fault anyway, because, if you want to do hacking, who the hell signs into a Microsoft account? Come on. You don't go around doing nefarious stuff signed into Microsoft. But the fact that they can log everything back to everything you've done since day one you installed Microsoft and put on a Microsoft account is shocking. So yeah, Linux is my daily driver. I haven't logged into Microsoft now for 4 days. It's just really bad. So yeah, Bazite will be it for the moment.
No, I did see a full scale from me, Mike. He had his hand up, or he's like, I don't know if you want to comment on my MX Linux nonsense that I said, or if you had something else to say about maybe like your hepatitis, or your cure for that. Oh, you're muted. I can't hear you, Mike. So, something is in the way of me being able to hear your delightful baritone. Sure, he'll find it. I can patter. I can pitter patter a little bit here and whatnot. Oh,
have you tried turning it off and on again?
I was going to say, Linux never has audio problems.
No. It's not coming in, Mike. Could be a hardware issue too. You never know. Like sometimes, like I got this new mess of things that I have over here, so who knows?
You never know. Well, my audio interface sometimes just arbitrarily decides to do something else instead of being an audio interface. I can't blame Linux for that. It just does that sometimes. I got it cheap though.
Oh, for sure.
I normally find my problem with microphones is I've got too many of them, because I've got the one in front of me, I've got the one on the webcam there, the one on the webcam there, the one on the webcam over there, and it's like, hang on a minute, I started off this morning on this. Who said you could swap to that one? And I think for me, it's Discord that's the absolute worst. You can turn it on one day and it works fine. You turn it on, turn it off, turn it back on again half hour later, and it's like all over the place. It's like at the moment, I can't set a shortcut key to mute the mic. Just won't register the key.
Yep.
Oh,
really weird.
Looks like I got you now.
Nope.
I heard a yup.
Yeah, it was Discord for me. I reset up my computer. I was agreeing with Eric about testing things. I've got in my distro box or a virtual box, I've got 5 different projects and 14 instances of their offerings that I'm testing. My thought is basically if you don't work in VirtualBox, the most common virtualization known to man, you're not worth being tested anymore. So I test them there and see how they interact with other projects to check with various protocols like Samba and so on. And sometimes it's to a household that has multiple distros. They're having problem connecting to another machine. You know, what's going on? It serves me multiple ways.
Yeah, and then I think Dale, he's like me, we're both on the tumbleweed train, but you do test other distributions out, so you have dedicated testing machines, but you wouldn't consider that distro hopping. No, you're muted.
No, I
Okay.
test a lot of distros. I don't distro hop at all. If I was distro hopping, the main computer right here would be a different distro every week. This has been a rock solid tumbleweed, except for my own goofs, for several years now, and I'm not planning on changing that.
Yeah. Yep, I'm kind of the same boat with that. And then Arch is out of the question for me. No way. No Arch. So anyway, I guess we should go ahead and get into that straw poll here. We'll see the results here as we hopefully give people enough time to vote. Let's go ahead and see the results. All right, so it looks like in first place, Zeb, people say you got 1 week, 26%.
Well, that's probably because they saw in your Discord that I posted a picture of CachyOS because Heather had a problem with CachyOS and I wanted to put it back on my machine just to try and answer her query. So I put on CachyOS. And then about 3 days later, I put up another little post that said, well, that CachyOS install was no good. And that's when I put up Ultramarine. So is that distro hopping? Because I've still got Bazite on here and I'm still using Bazite. Or is it distro testing?
Screening? I don't know. Listen, I don't make up the rules. They also don't matter even if I did. Was that what they said from? Was the from whose line is it anyway? It's the rules are made up. What's it? And the points don't matter, something like that. Or the points are made up and the rules don't matter, something like that. Anyway, that's kind of how this works. So tied for in second place, 2 weeks, and also 2 months. Then fourth place, 6 months. Fifth place, 1 month. Seventh, 3 months, and then he found his forever distro. Well, I guess tied for last. Anyway, so that was just for fun. I guess we'll see what happens. Either way, the rules are made up and the points don't matter. That's what it is. The rules are made up and the points don't matter. All right. What do you think about that, Zeb? Are those results fair?
Well, they're fair if you class them as looking at a new distro as distro hopping. New distros that I look at aren't necessarily my main distro. If I really wanted to just stick with one distro forever again, I'd probably choose MX. Because that, for me, is a distro that I know that I can go to, install it, and it works. But I get bored really easily and really quickly. And the fun that I've had over the years is trying literally every distro in DistroWatch. And I also used to do it to wind up Rocco to like an hour before we were going to do the next version of Destillation Linux. I'd be on a completely new distro. That would send him into fits of, what have you done? So yeah, it was all sorts of good fun.
That to me, that was always a kind of entertaining aspect. Kind of the whole like the playing the craps table or whatever. So yeah, good times. All right. So I guess we should go ahead and get on to the news flight night. And so our first story is on Arch Linux. Oops, I made a mistake. Hang on. There we go. So it looks like, let's make this a little bigger here so you can actually see it. So it looks like there are still problems with the AURs. The Arch Linux project has temporarily disabled adoption of Arch user repository packages after a surge in malicious takeovers of existing packages. The decision was announced on the distribution's mailing list by contributor Robin Candu, who said that the situation is temporary until the solution is found. Due to its current influx of malicious packages, the adoptions will follow comments made in the AUR package adoption is currently disabled or handle this situation. My eyes jumped. Feel free to report any suspicious adoption events or commits that have been dealt with yet, and stay vigilant. So independent federated intelligence networks conducted a technical analysis of the malware, reported that the campaign began July 29th with the package OpenConnect SSO. IFIN reports that the campaign bears many similarities to the last campaign, including the use of the Tor network for staging. In June, a separate campaign hit AUR by more than 400 packages, distributing a Linux rootkit and InfoStealer malware to unsuspecting users. I think it began before July 29th. In the last attack, the researchers identified 2-stage infections, with the first stage acting as the loader and the second as being a Linux x86-64 payload described as stealer malware with remote administration and SSH worm features. Further analysis showed that the first stage loader evades detection by checking for debuggers, sandboxes, virtual machines, and CI/CD environments before installing systemd services and cron jobs to ensure persistence. Then download and launches the Tor client disguised as a dbus daemon to retrieve the second stage payload from the .onion server. See, that to me that's kind of cruddy because they're basically using tools that I think are very valuable in a naughty way. Second stage is a Rust-based info stealer. So now Rust is a problem. That targets browser credentials, cryptocurrency wallets, password manager data, cloud, and developer secrets, AI secrets, service API keys, SSH, and messaging platform tokens. It also provides the attacker with remote command execution over an encrypted Tor channel and can spread laterally using stolen SSH keys to copy and execute itself onto other systems. That's pretty pernicious there. A Reddit user tracking the campaign alleges that it has expanded to over 200 AUR packages, either through compromised maintainer accounts or by adopting orphan packages. According to the same researcher, the campaign has spread to fairly popular AUR packages such as the boring SSL Git, iCloud PD, WinScribe, CLI v2 bin, Sterling PDF desktop bin, OpenConnect SSO, Arduino language server, NoClang bin, and PageAdmin4 server. The compromise status of these packages has not been independently confirmed, and a list of all 200 AUR packages believed to be malicious has not been made available as of publication. So, this is really bad. And I know it's AUR, you're not supposed to use AUR, but this is kind of a whole new territory being in the open source world. Historically, I felt that open source was a lot more of a trusted environment. You had a lot of, it was a high trust culture. And now that has changed significantly. Do you think it's because of the greater adoption of Linux in general? Or do you think it's, what do you think is the reason? Just some grumpy people out there that want to hurt others? What do you think is going on?
But Nate, is this the same as all of the other malware stuff that's been appearing in the AUR? Is this just people who are utilizing previous or now unmaintained packages? And because the majority of the people who use the AUR don't really read the install notes and all the rest of it, and don't look at the fact that this package hasn't been updated in 10 years, and all of a sudden it gets an update and it makes you wonder what that update was. Is it that same sort of thing, or is this a new attack per se?
It's the same sort of thing, although this looks like a more advanced attack. So I think before it was just compromising a couple of packages, but now this is and maybe it's just more information on that attack. I don't know for sure, but it looks like it's much of the continued attacks that have gone on, and so it's that's what it appears to be. So I see that the one and only Sean, he says AUR was built for a different era. So I guess what's the solution then? I'm like in all seriousness, what is the solution for this? I mean, yeah. So we all don't like the idea of having. We like the anonymity. Obviously, we're those of us here in Discord and showing our faces on YouTube. Obviously, we are a little bit less concerned about anonymity than maybe some others. Although I don't have my address out there for you to mail me things. But so my question is, what does something like the AUR or other open source projects have to do to screen contributors? Is it maybe that the AUR is just too big and just like a wandering through a junkyard at this point because so many packages that are, or so many AUR packages that are not maintained, and then they'll just basically just take anybody. It's kind of a wasteland at this point, or what? Like I'm like, it's a serious question. Like, was it what? Some distributions don't seem to have this as much of an issue, maybe because everything is checked and screened or whatever before it can go in the repositories. And AUR, the AUR obviously does not have as much of that. Do you require like ID, like valid ID? Do you maybe not allow certain regions of the world to be a part of it that are known to have more bad actors? It's one of these things that I don't know the answer to it. Like me personally,
sorry. Go ahead. I think you made a really good point initially when you said trust model, and I think we have to admit that it was never it's never been a trust model. The AUR is by design unreviewed. It's a pile of build scripts contributed by strangers, and the documentation says so. So there's no signing, there's no audit, there's no gatekeeping. The security model is you read the build package, and it's always been that way since day one. It's you get what you get. You know what I'm saying? You get what you get by not by trusting at the level that people are willing to take for simplicity. It's like, oh, okay, let me just type that in, install this, and it just does. But you're taking a massive chance in doing so.
So here's one of my problems with Arch in general. The people tout Arch as saying, well, we have this AUR, which is basically all the software out there that you could ever want. You can install it, and then from Arch itself, it's like, hey, don't use it. We don't recommend using the AUR. So it's kind of, there's a conflict right there. And maybe I'm interpreting everything wrong, and you can go ahead and say that. I don't care. I'm not gonna hurt my feelings. So I look at this and I say, well, golly, then why Arch? If the trust model is so broken, or there is no trust model because it doesn't have any of that, and there's probably no, the one only Sean says that I would say the solution would be more oversight, not just blindly accepting new or updated packages, regardless if it's the same developer or dev team. So then, I guess I don't even know then what would be the. I literally have no idea what the solution would be there then, because then you lose what makes the AUR an interesting place is that it is a wasteland. Well, a land of treasures, I suppose. And so Brother Dolphin says you can use Arch without the AUR. So yes, but then what do you use for your software choices are very limited, and that the attracting piece of Arch is the AUR. Really, I mean that to me that's the unique selling proposition. It's certainly not the packaging system, or the reliability of it. That's definitely not the attraction piece. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's not even just like just don't use the AUR. It's like maybe things have changed a lot, but some people have to use the AUR. Back when I was using Arch, I had to use it to get the certain NVIDIA drivers, certain wireless drivers I needed for hardware to function. And like some people use the Brave browser, and certain browsers are only available in the AUR. It's not that simple.
Well, I mean, that's absolutely true. The only times I've ever used the AUR is when I needed a piece of software that I couldn't obtain any other way. And I had actually done the review work of, is there, it's less about being technically like 100% validate every like link and facet of the build script as it was to make sure other people were actually using it. So there's sort of a popularity contest to the AUR, right? You'll have multiple packages around the same thing. Maybe one's a binary, one's from source. You might have something that's been abandoned or something, that's newer and untested yet. So, but there are ways to safely use it, but it's not something that is easily apparent. Like, unless you're just sort of a seasoned IT person that kind of understands how software is and how open source software functions and what it means to use a user repository of something. I mean, if you have the savvy to know those things, then AUR is perfectly fine. It's the people who just think that even though they warn you, the people that think, oh, well, this is associated with Arch. It is an official part of the distribution, whether or not that's true. It's called the user repository, which means nothing to people who don't understand what that means. And then they just start installing things. And I would say less of it is about being nefarious and more about just being broken or out of date or incompatible or some technical issue that's less about being like someone out to get you and more about just being the wrong thing. So it is not a novice tool. And I think that's really the greatest disservice that Arch does, is that they don't more strongly say, like, unless you know exactly what you're doing, we cannot, nobody can guarantee that what you do here is safe, practical, smart. It's just here because somebody figured out how to install Brave and is trying to make it easier for you, or maybe even themselves, by posting this here.
You get to keep the broken pieces.
Yeah, that's the other thing that Eric pulled upon there, is they don't know what it is they're downloading. And the thing that I used to find is half the time you'll download a package from the AUR, you install it on your system, and because it was poorly written by the person who put it on the AUR, it's then overriding essential files that the Arch Linux needs to run. And now all of the Arch developers are on version 1.2, and you've just downloaded version 0.8 because it worked in this AUR package, and all of a sudden your whole system doesn't work. And then you blame the Arch people because you didn't know what you were doing with the AUR. Unless you are, as you said, a very, very seasoned Linux user, understand scripts, can work out how everything's put together, just stay away from it. It might be convenient, but it's rife with so many problems.
Do you think the target for these attacks have been common users, or you think they've been for developers? Because developers kind of hold the key to everything else, whether you're talking about API keys or crypto wallets and things like that. Whereas, there are quite a few. I mean, I don't know what the packages themselves. I'm not an Arch user, and so I don't really maybe know what packages have been targeted. But I would imagine that if you can target developers, it actually has a longer, it can hurt more,
picking up on that, Drew, I think that a lot of it is they are hoping that there is someone out there working for a big industry who uses Linux, downloads that package, and now they've got a foothold in a major company because of that silly user downloading something from the AUR. And now they've got a foothold into that company that works with another company that's large. And before you know it, this hacker's now got access to 3 or 4 large corporations, and they're going for the long-term hack, not just, oh, let me just tickle a few million users and cheese them off. They are trying to get into these large utility companies, multi-million-dollar companies, trying to get, admin passwords so that they can do all sorts of nefarious things. But maybe I'm overthinking that, but I think that's what a lot of them might be trying to do.
Yeah, and you got to keep in mind, I mean, I used Arch for a couple of years, and I think I can say that Arch has a different mentality with things. It's the epitome of, some distros, they'd give you the bicycle and you'd have to put the wheels on or air the tires up. Arch is not really like that. They don't really believe in having guardrails or safety rails or whatnot. It's you assemble your system, you know what you're installing on your system. If you're going to the AUR and installing packages in the AUR, you've read the package build and you fully understand what you're doing and that sort of thing. Just because distros like Kashi and Endeavor and Manjaro and that exist doesn't really change the fact that the host distro doesn't really believe in putting up guardrails, and you can fly off the side of the mountain sometimes when you're doing stuff like that. You can be one update away from a black screen and whatnot. It's very possible.
So
yeah, I think any real Arch user, or let's just say a hardcore Arch user, would listen to what I had just said and seen all of those things as positives. They were not negatives. That was by design. It is Arch's way, and you either like it or you don't. You either are savvy enough to use the AUR and understand what's safe and what isn't, or you aren't.
Yep. If you want to put square triangular wheels on your car, that's the Arch way. Yeah, you can do that, absolutely. And if you forget to put the lug nuts on the tire and you take off down the road and the tire flies off, well, that's your fault, right? So
that's it.
That's kind of their mentality
it's
around
unapologetic. Yeah, it's unapologetic and it has its place. It's beloved by many, many people, and it is what it is.
So based on what Zeb said, it kind of brought something to mind, and so I'm going to go ahead and highlight this here. But do you remember back September of 2024 when Valve is helping Arch with build service infrastructure and secure signing enclave? So we know that Valve has been now involved with Arch, and I wonder if maybe what Zeb is like. What if it's an attack against Valve in some ways because they are such a large gaming company? I'm not saying that some competitors doing it. I'm just saying that because it's a larger, more attractive attack vector now. If you can affect Linux gaming or a large swath of people that are in this and using Linux for games, something along those lines, kind of a supply chain attack of sorts. I'm not saying that's what's going on. I'm saying that might be a reasonable theory that would agree with Zeb's point of view. So I don't know. I mean, it really, when did Arch start getting more noise? Yes, I use Arch, by the way, but like when people really started using Arch, I think it was following the launch of the Steam Deck. And I think that with Valve's involvement now, it's like, oh, there's a lot of people using this. This is here's a known security lapse, could say, and this might be a way to exploit that. It's just a thought.
Yeah, but surely with the Steam Deck and stuff like that, they're not. Yes, it's Arch in the background, but the end user isn't using Arch. They're using a curated Arch that Valve have put together. So
Right.
unless
But
they are deliberately going to go to the AUR and try and download on something on their Steam Deck, which I don't know
Right.
if you can do or not because I've never had a gaming console.
So two things. If I'm thinking like the bad guy, one, Steam OS is Arch based. Then you have people out there who are, let's say, those that are inspired by the PewDiePies of the world and Linus Tech Tips that are building Linux-based gaming systems, and now they've got opened up to all the software now. So you have that swath of gamers potentially, and then like you said, if they're trying to get to inside of a developer's machine, and they are I don't know what the percentage is actually using Arch. I have no idea, but let's just say there may be some overlap between Linux developers and Steam OS developers that could be using it. I'm saying there's a correlation there. I'm not saying it's absolute. I'm just theorizing. If I were a bad guy, that would be a vector. Not trying to give anybody any ideas. So the 35 people that are watching right now don't get any bad ideas. It's just a thought. Anyway, so dark times indeed in our formerly high trust Linux world, open source world, and I think that's the most concerning part. I think, for sure. Well, all right. I don't want to read the entirety of this article. More, I want to just kind of talk about some of the bits here that I think are interesting. So Ubuntu 26.10, which is an LTS, has got some new features and so far. So every 2 years or so, Canonical puts out a long-term support release that gets 5 years of security updates, which can be stretched further with Ubuntu Pro. We all know this, or a lot of us do. An interim every 6 months, each of those support for 9 months. So those releases don't carry the same importance as LTS, but that's the point. They give Canonical room to test newer kernels, tool change, and design changes with similar user bases before the changes get baked into the next LTS. The next one, 2610, carries the codename Stonking Stingray, continuing the tradition of ordered alphabetical codenames after Resolute Raccoon. Although I think Resolute Raccoon, that's a fun name there. Stonking, is it Stoking or Stonking? It's a British slang for something impressively big or excellent. Zeb, help me out.
Impressively big or excellent.
Stonking.
Yeah, I guess you could just say that's stonkingly good. So yeah, I'll let them get away with that.
So the stingray is a flat-bodied, boneless fish that spends most of its time half buried in the sand near the seafloor, which is quite understandable seeing the state of this world. Anyway, so if things go as planned, we will land on October 15th, 2026, with a short support window that will close in July of 2027. So the Ubuntu testing week, freeze whatever. But so here's so what's coming up new on this is Linux kernel 7, which is kind of to be understood, and then major dbus change. So it's finally swapping out the dbus daemon, the default dbus implementation. It's used since its very first release back in 2024 in favor of the dbus broker. If you didn't know, dbus is the messaging system your desktop relies on, constantly letting apps, background services, and the system itself pass messages back and forth. Anything from plugging a USB drive to updating a notification badge running through it. dbus daemon is held up fine as a reference implementation for over 2 decades, but as its limits under heavy load, messages can vanish unexpectedly, and its queries messages targets sequentially instead of all at once, which adds up to latency and bus gets busier. dbus broker addresses both by design, built around an asynchronous event-driven architecture for its ground up, and is already the default on several other distros. I wonder which distros. Maybe Jinda can figure that out. GNOME 51, upcoming stable release project with and then And we have AI is coming, which it seems with everything. So they Canonical did share their plans. The short version of it is that everything would be local first and built around open widget models rather than forcing a cloud subscription onto the users. So I have no problem with that. Does anybody have a problem with that? If it's local only? Then the Ubuntu certified checks. If you ever wonder whether or not your device is officially supported by Ubuntu, you'll like this one. The settings manual is getting a simple way to check whether or not your machine is Ubuntu certified. Once live, it will show up in the About page, where it will pull a certification status of your exact hardware model, checked against Canonical's own database. Continued Rustification, which is controversial, and some miscellaneous additions as well. So, what are your thoughts on some of those changes? I know I think Mike Chilson, he's a primarily Ubuntu user. Does any of that stuff interest you or concern you?
Not really. I mean, those intermittent releases are just really for testing new technologies. Some of the stuff makes it into the LTS, some doesn't. So just have to wait and see.
Someone is dbus broker. The dbus broker thing sounds actually very interesting, because I have had sometimes when if I connect my dock, which has a bunch of things hooked up to it, I have had in the past some issues with that. I know, does anybody here have like dock and undock machines with lots and lots of things, or is that just me? Warthunder?
Not as often as I used to, but yeah, I do have a Lenovo dock here that I do use from time to time.
Yeah, here I will show you my excellent dock.
Ooh.
Is it? Let me see how do I flip this on? I'm on my phone. I'm trying to figure. Oh, there it is. No, that's stream settings. Where the heck is it?
Oh, things froze out.
This laptop has like 3 ports, two USB-C. I don't know if you can see this or not. 2 USB-Cs and 1 USB-A. And so the USB-A has a dongle with 4 things plugged in, and then the USB-C, one of them is power, and then the other one is like 3 things. So
nice.
Yeah, that's like everything. And yeah, so when I plug them in, it's like all the devices at one time. But Linux is actually really good at that. I have not had it like freak out, or it's usually pretty graceful at it. So yeah.
Are you running Fedora? What are you running right now?
Yeah, Fedora 44,
Okay,
the KD Plasma.
So I just checked to see if you're running dbus broker, if you're running the dbus dbus daemon. So Tumbleweed is using dbus broker. I just checked, and I have noticed I haven't had issues with this monitor, which I did an article recently, but coming on automatically.
Yeah, I'm running dbus broker.
Okay. I wonder if that was an automatic change. How long have you had that install going, Dale?
On the main Tumbleweed?
Yeah. When's the last time you did a fresh install?
It's been a year or more.
You want to see if you're running dbus broker or dbus daemon?
I can do a check on a Tumbleweed I just installed if you want. Just tell me the command to throw at it.
All right, you can do. I'll put it in the chat. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
So. I think it's this. Yep. So just do that. You can do it as just user. You can do that on your main machine too. I'm just curious to see, like, I'm guessing that change was an automatic one because I don't see dbus daemon as an option. So I bet it would have flipped it over automatically. Interesting. Anyway, so I guess that's good news. Did I miss something? So I don't know if what the thoughts are on those changes for this the latest Ubuntu, these Stonking Stingray.
Yeah, I don't install those small releases
Interim?
like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just I tried them once. I think back around 1804 or 2004, something like that, and had all kinds of problems updating to the next version. So.
Oh, really? Like you couldn't roll to the next one very well?
Yeah, I mean, they may have fixed that yet, but generally, if you're running one of those interim versions, you have to wait later to upgrade than the LTS.
The only thing that I'm going to find in. Sorry, go ahead.
It's just, they wait till like the first point release before they let you upgrade to it.
Right.
Okay.
On the LTS, yeah.
Oh, okay.
The interesting thing for me here, it says Canonical is redesigning how Ubuntu gets installed with a sharper focus on cutting down the complexity around partitioning and storage configuration, which is great when everyone assumes that you're installing it on a laptop and everything's going to get wiped. There's very few distros out there, with the exception of MX, and I'm not just saying that because Dolphin's in chat, but that make it easy for people running multiple SSDs and multiple NVMEs with multiple Linux distributions on them, because you don't want to. Because a lot of times I run into the problem of, oh, okay, I'm going to try this distro and I've got this much space on my NVMe drive, and you go in there and it says, oh, you haven't got enough room to do this. Go back and do that. And then you go back and do that and you restart the installer and it doesn't remember what you've just done, and you have to reboot the whole machine again to get back into that. There's very few distros out there that allow you to distro hop easily, in my opinion. So I'm going to be trying this just because I want to see what they've done to the installer. Does it make it easier when you because I never share EFI partitions between Linux machines. They've all got their own EFI, because the minute you decide to move off of that one and you've shared it with something else, you delete it and then the other distro don't work anymore because you had a shared EFI partition. So I shall be testing that out and letting you guys know.
There is one limit. You can't have two EFI partitions on the same physical drive.
Yes, you can. I've been doing it for years.
Hmm.
In fact, I've run SSDs in the past where I've had 6 Linux distros on it, and each of those distros has had its own EFI partition.
It'd be an installer restriction then.
It could be, but yeah, I mean, even with MX Linux, I can do that. I can have multiple EFI partitions on the same drive. You just have to tell it which one to use when you're installing it.
Yeah, it depends on the installer. You guys are both right. So depending on whether it'll let you pick any partition as the EFI, or some of them will just lock it and not let you. I've had that issue in the past with a few different ones. Like it was one of them was like a custom installer, so they were just making an assumption, which just someone who didn't think ahead. But one was a more well-known one. Yeah. So, and I've had other weird things with multiple reusing the EFI. So I've actually started trying to use fresh EFIs per distro if I'm doing multiples, because Fedora had this thing where if you tried to reinstall Fedora on the same drive using the same EFI partition, it would fail and not tell you why, which was really frustrating. And then but it wouldn't fail to the very end when it was trying to write, the boot stuff. So so you had to go like wipe that portion of the EFI folders. And anyway, it's never a great idea to keep just stuffing old, more and more and more distros into a single EFI, but so you're both right.
I mean, the other thing I forgot to say was that before I do that, I use something like KDE Partition Manager or gparted and turn the flags off of all of those EFIs that I don't want the system to use, so that when it goes through the install, it can only see the latest EFI partition I've created. The fun begins when I then forget, before I reboot, to turn all the others back on again. But I've done so many multiple distro hops that it's turn them all off, install it, go back in, turn them all back on again and reboot. And that's the way I do it now.
It might be related to the UFI boot path rather than the actual partition. I'll have to ping Felix to see what he meant about that comment.
So I want to bring up this chat here, just because I think it's interesting. Interesting statement. So I'm gonna say Sassy Sassa. I don't know, says said. Oh, I think I selected the wrong one. But to describe, here it says, I'll take word for it. The way it was described to me, people who work on certain projects get accounts hacked, and malicious actors start adding weird stuff to projects. And earlier it was stated, says when you use Linux, I'm not sure how to use it, but I hear random things like Git got hacked, everything is compromised, but I don't know how I would deal with things like that. So it's actually not, with most mainline Linux distributions, so major ones, so your Ubuntu, Fedora, SUSE, things like that, OpenSUSE, just based and Fedora based, whatever their distributions. So they have quality assurance checks before they push things through. There's a lot of work that's done to curate the software. That's why they make these distributions. And also like Fedora and OpenSUSE, many of them, I don't know if all of them, but at least Tumbleweed and Leap, they use SE Linux to enforce things. So if you were to get a piece of software that acted weird, the SE Linux would actually contain it for the most part, so long the rules, unless the attackers are smart enough to somehow compromise your rule sets to fiddle that up. So there are layers of protection that exist within a distribution of Linux. I know Ubuntu uses AppArmor, I believe, still. So there's that, and the other things you can do to make sure things aren't going sideways as well. But anyway, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. There's a lot of very smart people that are very in tune with what's going on, that are actively monitoring and making sure these things don't get all goofed up, as it were. So just a little comment on that. So you don't have to. So just a thought. But anyway, any other thoughts on Ubuntu before we move on? So let's see here. Some gaming. Yeah, we don't have time for this. I'll let this kind of wander to where it's going to go. So Sony has acknowledged backlash which is surprising. Cautiously moves ahead with the end of PlayStation discs. I'm of two schools of thoughts on this, and I'm interested in knowing what your thoughts are. But Sony acknowledges the backlash. Cautious moves ahead with the end of PlayStation discs. So it doesn't think the move will hurt it financially. So Sony is cautiously moving forward with the plans to stop producing discs for PlayStation games as of January 2028. CFO Lin Tao said through an interpreter today during an earnings call. Tao said there are various reasons for Sony's decision, with the biggest being that the digitalization of content overall has been progressing. When we think about the future, we have put in a lot of thought and time, and we cautiously consider this. We came to the conclusion, and we're going to cautiously move this forward, Tao said. A lot of cautious in there. Sony's announcement this month has drawn backlash from gamers and big names in the gaming industry who question the future in which they don't own PlayStation games, but instead buy licenses, which can be revoked. There's also concern that some games will become hard to find if Sony eventually closes its digital storefronts. Tao acknowledges that people have strong views about the end of PlayStation discs. Games are loved by many people, she said. It's a form of entertainment that is loved by people. It's connected to people, fond memories in many cases. We understand those emotions. We want to consider that, and in the future digital ecosystem, how we engage gamers is something that we would like to continue to explore. The change in strategy reflects how Sony sells games today in its fiscal year ending on March 31st. Digital downloads accounted for 70% of Sony's full game unit purchases in 2008. 100 PlayStation games sold over 100,000 physical units in that year, in the first half of that year, compared to 7 in the first half of 2026, according to the data shared in this month by Circana analyst Matt Piscatella. More broadly, physical game sales have declined from 297 million units in the US from June 2008 to 37 million in the past year, which is significant. When asked about the financial impact of Sony's decision to end disc production, Ishii, a corporate communications executive, said Sony has yet to see an impact and noted that content sales are largely digitized already. Therefore, as a result of the discontinuation of discs, we don't see that there will be any negative impact in our business. However, users and players have attachments, and we have to think about how to respond to those feedbacks. The executive said per a transcript of the call. So executives are also asked how PlayStation will differentiate itself from PC gaming, which generally does not use discs. Taylor said that Sony doesn't believe discs are what distinguishes PlayStation from the PC, instead pointing to curated content as its strength of the console, according to the transcript. The game environment being stable, that's another strength. Compared to the high-end game PC, our products are more affordable. We don't feel that the discs itself is a strong factor in the differentiation. Going forward, we can coexist peacefully with PC gamers. Sony has reportedly started repurposing its disc factory to make optical microlenses. Okay. So how many... Go ahead.
I was going to say, I guess my biggest problem with no disc is like what recently happened. I think it was on one of the. It might have been Google, it might have been YouTube, but they just lost the license or didn't want to renew the license to a whole host of films. So there you are as this user of this media service, and you might have paid, a couple of £1,000 for your film library. It's now gone because the people who you bought it from didn't renew the license from the people who owned it. So without a physical disc, you can't watch your films anymore. Well, it's going to be the same with games, and the fact that they keep making all of these games online only. When the server goes down, your 75 quid that you've just spent on the latest and greatest Gran Turismo 7 is gone.
Yeah. How many games, though, have you played on a PlayStation since the 4 where it didn't require some sort of a download anyway? Just to play.
Yeah, that's an annoying aspect of the way they produce games as well. They release them in a and there's no way to do anything with that download. But there's nothing to stop you if the whole server goes down. There's nothing to stop you still plugging in that game because you're not connecting to the server anymore. So it can't connect. It can't check to see if there's a new a new version. But you should still be able to play that game offline, just you. If you want to go online, yeah, you got to have the latest and greatest version. But if you just want to go around the Gran Turismo tracks that came out on day one, you should be able to do that.
Yeah, what I'm saying though is I don't know how many of those physical media discs anyway are actually a complete game that you can just play. You just pop in and play. So I think gone is the era.
The industry in general.
Yeah, there's a term for that, and somethingification. I think you know what that is.
I think the last game that I did buy that just worked was Gran Turismo 7. And I downloaded it, put the disc in and played it. Yes, the minute I wanted to go and play online, I had to download this big update, and then there was like an update every other week, and it was a pain in the neck.
So
gotta love those day one patches.
Yeah, I think that's what kind of concerns me anyway. So the first game what should I say? The last game I purchased physical copy of recently that didn't require any downloads or whatever was at the Vintage Computer Fest Midwest. I bought Petsky Robots from the 8-Bit Guy. I didn't have to download anything after that. It just worked. So that's for a Commodore 64. Anyway, so it's something. I did buy some PS4 games. This is years back, and I couldn't play them until actually like it did a bunch of downloads. So it's something I don't know.
It's funny you mentioned the 8-Bit Guy. Every time I see one of his videos, I wonder if you have ever played his games. So it's good to confirm that.
All of them. I mean, not every like
every release.
Playing Petsky Robots, yeah, not for like, I haven't played it for the Atari. Oh, not Atari. I haven't played it for the Apple II. I played the Commodore 64 and the VIC-20. So things like that. Anyway, so I don't know. And I think the gaming industry is in trouble because I look at it a couple of ways. One, essentially, a Sony PlayStation is a PC. It's got all the pieces and parts of a PC, but in a tightly integrated unit. Software and hardware stack, right? PC is a little bit more open-ended. The Steam Deck would be a more tightly integrated PC, but still. And so these things are internet connected, which means they have to be patched, which means they do require updates, and there's software updates that come down for new features and whatnot. So I don't really know what the solution is for all of that, game preservation and so forth. Do you have? I almost feel like it should. I mean, I don't necessarily like government getting involved and making things worse, but it almost seems like there should be some sort of a contract that when you buy a game and you buy the digital additional content, what is it DLC? What's it called? Is that what it is? It used to be called an expansion pack back in my day. Those expansion packs were actually physical media as well. So it almost seems like that should be, I don't know, those patches should be available to be downloaded and archived. You know what I mean? Like that should almost be part of the contract that you have when you buy a game. I don't know. Am I talking crazy talk?
No, you are talking right, because how many games in the past have they suddenly decided, oh, do you know what? This isn't making us as much money as it is anymore, and it's costing us an arm and a leg to keep the server running, so we'll just shut the server down. And then the game that you've spent hundreds of hours on and maybe $50 over the course of 3 years, or even $100 over the course of 3 years, buying bits and pieces, you might as well have just thrown that in the bin. Yes, you've had 3 years of enjoyment, but your $100 is now worthless because they shut the server down. That's where it all falls down. We're having digital media and servers dependent upon the companies running them for you. And then you get the community that says, oh, you know what, I'm going to fork this and make our own stuff and we'll run the servers. And then they get sued by the original company for nicking their idea. Well, hang on a minute. You just shut our server down, so you're not interested in it anymore. So leave us alone. It's just ridiculous.
And Valve isn't out of this either, because you are just buying a license from Valve to play your games. I mean, they're in the same boat. The difference is, our Lord Gaben pretty much figured out a long time ago that people that sailed the seven seas, as I'll say, so I don't demonetize Nate, it's not necessarily a money problem. It's not necessarily many other things. It's a distribution problem. If you make it easy for people to buy something from you and distribute it to you, then that's the easier path. People are going to go down that path. One of the things I do like that Valve does, this doesn't solve the problem, but I have games that I own on Steam that they don't sell anymore. A good example, it's not a great game, but Star Trek DAC, you can't buy it anymore. It got delisted a long time ago. It's probably been over 10 years. I can still go to Steam. I can click on that in my Steam library, and I can still download it because Valve still has that game on their servers. They can't sell it anymore, but it's still there because I already own it, or at least I own a license to it. I can still go in and get the game from them. Where I really think the game industry, they won't go that way, but GOG, I think, kind of has the best idea, because yeah, you could just log into your GOG launcher and install your games, but you can also just go download an offline copy of all your DRM-free GOG games. You have them forever.
Yep.
You can put them on CDs, you can put them on your NAS, and you can do whatever you want with them. They don't care.
Well, because you're actually buying the game outright from GOG, GOG, Grand Old Games, or Good Old Games, whatever they are. Yeah, so they have a different business model.
These digital games and movies, the thing you got to remember, you're not actually buying it. You don't own it in the traditional sense. You're purchasing a license to use it and to view it. That's all you're doing. I'm not saying that that's right, but that's the legalese of it. And so if they want to pull something, that's their obligation. You agree to the EULA on the on the game or the movie. So you need to go into it, understanding that, I guess, is the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
But then they should make it obvious up front, because you go onto some of these servers and it says, buy this movie.
I agree.
They're not saying to you, buy a lease to this movie and you can watch it as long as we host it or as long as we pay. Yes, it's hidden in the EULA, but in all honesty, guys, when was the last time you sat down and read a EULA line by line, all 354 pages of it, and understood everything? That's just their ultimate legal cop-out. It's just, they need to just make things a bit more obvious. They can't say buy this movie. They should say lease this movie for as long as we let you watch it.
Right.
But they're never going to do that because it won't sell then.
That's right.
But the other thing too is, like, these publishers or whatever, they have some pull too. Like, we're not going to let you sell the game, or however you want to put it, unless I'm sure there's a negotiation of terms there as well between the publisher houses and so forth. There's got to be.
Yeah, that's one thing that people have been talking about with this, is Sony doing this, and this is something that I've even criticized Valve in the past for. Like, for example, I own Prey on Steam. I bought the game, I didn't like it, I wanted to return it, but I can't because I played it for too long. I had a friend that wanted to play it. I would have happily sold it to him, even if it was for $1. Would have just given him the game. And I can't do that because it's tied to my digital library. And so if he wants to play the game, he has to go out and buy it. game stores now, if you're looking at anything, at this point, they're on a time clock. At this point, at least all the ones that are selling all modern games like GameStop and some of the other big game stores, you just got signed a death sentence by Sony because now the only thing you can sell is old stuff that's already been produced, has been around in circulation, is the used market. And unfortunately, I suspect that it will eventually reach a point where you can't buy anything because everyone will be holding on to it for forever. I mean, I own a lot of old games and I'm kind of holding on to them, even though there's some I don't play, just because I know if I sell it, I'll never find it again. Just some real weird,
as a selling
stuff.
point, so as a selling point, does that then mean that as a console, Steam Machines is more attractive because you don't necessarily have to worry? I mean, I get that there's exclusives and PlayStation this and Xbox that and all that stuff, but to me, it would seem more appealing to use a Steam machine. I think I'm saying that right. As a console than any of because I mean, they're two of the worst media companies in the world, Sony and Microsoft. Like, pick your ultimate poison. Whereas at least, on Steam, you can play most of the games, and I know nothing's perfect, and the guys at Valve are getting old, and maybe there won't always be, things won't always work the way they do now, but at least in the short term, it just seems like that's a way better investment to me. But again, I'm not a huge gamer, so I don't hang on the AAA title of the year. And when I want a new game, I go to Steam and look for the one that's on sale for $6. So yeah.
I get that.
I'm not their target audience.
I mean, I think it kind of can, and that's one thing too. With my Steam Deck, I've learned that Valve gives you a lot more liberty to play offline than you really think they do. Not every game works. There's games like Rockstar who need thrown off a cliff that want to DRM check you every single time. I have tons of games that it's like once a month, once every 2 months, once every 90 days, it has to touch the internet. But you could take your Steam Deck or your Steam machine out of airplane mode, connect it to the Wi-Fi, launch the game, and then it pings home and says, yeah, you're good, and you could just not update the game. I mean, Valve gives you the choice to update or not update your console. And at the end of the day, it's a PC. They'll even let you put Windows on it, I guess, if you're crazy. And you could buy a Steam machine and buy no Steam games, put into desktop mode and install Heroic and install your God games. So, I mean, they kind of give you the freedom to do whatever you want there. If you really want to. You can even put a different Linux on it if you want to. Like, you're not that locked in.
There is one interesting little tidbit, and you may have, it's not been something I've heard people talk about recently, but it's something I do remember. There was it's not a public guarantee, but Valve did say at one time that if we shut down, you will keep permanently access to everything. So everything that you have locally will work. So Steam support has historically replied saying that we have no plans to shut down and we don't have specific information about what that would happen in an extreme unlikely event. But older community memory back from like the 2010 era recalls Valve employees or support saying that they would release something that lets people keep playing, for example, offline. And also there is Steam offline mode, which will work basically indefinitely. And obviously the game won't have any network play features, but you will have single player features. So there's that. And then it's a minority of games that can be run completely outside of Steam after installation. So
my biggest problem with that, Nate, though, is where am I going to find the room to put 293 Steam games? I've not got them all downloaded, but you're probably talking a couple of terabyte of downloads of games, because some of the games that you get now are like 200 or 300 gig. It's ridiculous just for one flaming game. So where are you going to put them all?
You're going to buy that 2 terabyte drive or a bunch of 2 terabyte drives you can't afford.
it's always entertaining to me to look back at the games I've loved over the years and like go install like Skyrim or something, and it's like 3 gigs. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. And go back to the original Elite Dangerous, that when it was first built for the PC, it came on a 3.25 inch or 3.5 inch floppy disk.
Yeah.
And it ran brilliantly.
I think there is a certain amount of like goldfish principle where it's kind of like the bowl has gotten so big for developers with assets and everything else that they just, and I get it, like gamers do ask for more and more realism and ray tracing and all this stuff. I mean, I get it, but at the same time, it's kind of shocking whenever it's like I've got a terabyte drive and I can only put like 5 games on it. Like, come on, man. that's wild. So so I feel you. Like my desktop set up like that, I have 2 Steam instances. I have one where it's mainly just storage, so it's like a slow disk, like a 2 terabyte drive, and that's just more or less backup for games, for save game, like just the local configuration and all that stuff. And then the faster drive, I have a SSD where there's another library that has like games that I would be actively playing, so that the disk is performant enough. But yeah, it is not. You're right. I mean, if you have 200 some games, you got it. That's a lot of storage, especially if they're more modern games. So.
And the beauty about running those 2 Steam libraries is it's very easy to say, okay, I'm finished playing for this for the moment. So you tell it to move off of the SSD onto your bulk storage, and then the game you want to bring, you tell it to move from your bulk storage onto your SSD. So that's the way I always used to not have to reinstall all my Steam games, because as soon as I've got the games that I want on my PC, they get backed up to an external USB drive. So the next time I mess up Arch or mess up Windows or whatever, I reinstall it, put it back on the PC, point to it, and bingo, I've just got to verify that all the files are there.
Yeah. Yep.
I've just got to find what to take off of my 4 8 terabyte drives. What can I afford to lose to put all my Steam games on there?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's just no perfect solution, unfortunately. And, that we're in the modern age of digital delivery, and Steam, for me, does it better than anyone else. I mean, again, I'm not like the world's biggest gamer, but in terms of customer satisfaction for a service that you use, I'm trying to think of anything over the last 20 years that has met that same level of satisfaction. There aren't many, that haven't succumbed to the modern and crapification paradigm.
Yeah. Well,
it's not digital, but my local fish and chip shop came close.
Yeah, but what you call chips, we call fries. And what we call chips, you call crisps.
Let's not start that conversation, eh?
Hey, they're both pretty good, so I'm not going to argue.
Sometimes I'll call chips crisps in non-British company just because.
Because you're an Anglophile?
Yeah.
I've been accused of that as well.
Well, interesting things to be had about the about gaming for sure. We'll see what Sony actually does. We'll see if maybe the gaming industry can get its head out of its 4th point of contact. I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
This is what happens with rambling, Nate. Have a look at Slur's comment.
This is my favorite Linux gaming podcast.
You never.
We're talking about Sony games.
Linux. This is Linux chocolate box. You don't know what you're getting.
Yeah, it's I think I have right in the description of the YouTube video that the conversation will get derailed. It's part of the thing. I mean, it derailed so far. Drew left, and I don't even know when he left. So
That's the mark of a good episode. Whenever it's 10 o'clock and you've gone, what? What did we even talk about? I don't remember. Yeah.
That's why I take show notes so that I can remember. We are pretty much out of time, so I want to hop over to housekeeping real quick. Next week is a distribution exploration. I don't know if you remembered, we talked about it a couple weeks back, but Odyssey Linux is going to be what we're going to be doing. So this had the fun little spaceman here that you can follow your mouse, which actually this makes doing this distribution exploration or screening, whatever you want to call it, worth it just for this, I think.
Is it actually released as an ISO now?
Let's find out. Oh, the spaceman left. Yeah, download ISO. If I do this
and does it work with NVIDIA?
I have no idea.
Oh god, the nightmare.
You can torrent it. Does that help you out?
No, I'm talking about I've got my NVIDIA based PC here, and I don't do VirtualBox reviews.
Well, I got it.
I mean, it's based on Void, so I'd like to think Void has the ability.
Their website is really cool.
I like how simple it is. And it's really, it might be one of my favorites. But anyway, so that's next week, Odyssey Linux. So download it if you wish to participate in it. You don't have to participate to be a part of the conversation. You can just be the peanut gallery the whole time. That's totally permitted, totally allowed, and actually encouraged to be a peanut gallery. Be part of the peanut gallery. The next early edition will also be next week. So put that on your calendar. That might be out for you then, Zeb. You don't have to worry about doing it, but I will ask you about it anyway. And we'll see if you're still on Bazite next week as well, since 1 week I think was got most of the votes. If you have any suggestions for the show, whether it's distribution, discussion, application, poll ideas, whatever you got, feel free to send them to suggestions@linuxsaloon.com. And also, there'll be a blathering on keepinglate.com that has all the show notes in it. So I like to think that my show notes are the best out there because I actually include all the links. Just click on it, all the links are there. You don't have to hunt them down. They're right there. Not true for all other shows. Most of them, many of them that I watch or listen to, but not all of them. And I always get annoyed when it's like they feature something and you can't find it. But anyway, I almost slipped into a William Shatner. I apologize for that. So we'll go ahead and do a very quick community report because I said I'd do it. I don't care for running late. I said I would, and I'm a person of my word, even if sometimes I
we'll
forget.
make it quick, Nate.
So we'll make it real. Yeah, if you can. What do you got there for Storm OS? What's the great update that everyone should be excited about on the edge of their seat? You're finally moving away from Arch and XFCE going to a really good experience.
Well, XFCE, hold on. XFCE is, the terminal is broken. I'm going to state that right now. I don't know how the heck it broke, but it had a crap fit on me keeping it family, as you know. So, it's kind of, I don't know what the heck happened, but basically, I'm working on it. There's going to be a config folder rebuild, a .config .files folder rebuild, most likely. Then I'm going to try that, and if that doesn't work, then the whole folder is effed, and I have to start the install StormOS XFCE folder where I build from all the heck over again. But that's sort of like a last case scenario. So, we'll just see where it goes. Luckily, I have all my configs and themes and stuff backed up. So we'll just see where it goes. So, hopefully I can get the August release out soon because I didn't have one for the for July. So I'm running a little behind, but that's partly because not my fault, but the distro is just half working right now. So yeah.
Okay.
And everything else works. It's just the main component behind it in the distro, the terminal's broke. So, that's the main issue with it.
That
So,
I don't.
yeah.
That sounds
Hopefully
crazy.
next week we'll have a bit better news at the end, but I'll keep you guys posted. So we'll go
Cool.
from there.
Well, it seems like a broken terminal is kind of a critical thing. Like it's like the end of the world for Linuxy people.
Yeah, very critical bug that I have to fix.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, sure I could throw in, a different terminal, but that's just a lot of extra configuring that I would rather not have to do.
Right.
I mean, it is a dodgy workaround, but it's not that kind of thing, that I want to fall into the rabbit hole of, So,
Oh, sure.
but yeah, that's this week's news on it, and we'll take it from there.
Well, very nice. Well, hopefully get that all sorted out, and then you can push a
Then we can
push a new version.
right.
All right. Well,
Right. We'll take a
well, it is that time for last call. We are over, so we got to be a little bit quick about this. Ben, what exciting
yes.
what exciting hot takes do you got for today?
Well, the other Ben, sorry.
You already gave me your hot take, Ben. Can't take two. Don't be double dipping your chips in the dip.
Benjamin,
Don't be double dipping.
Maybe you should. I was going to tell him, Nate. Maybe he should retitle his Discord title so we don't get confused.
No, we'll just call you StormOS Ben. So Ben's Cloud.
I'll fix
Ben's
it
Cloud
for next week. It's fine.
No, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
So I've been having fun playing with Proxmox lately, and I guess one of the things I would say is that, like, can you really call it distro hopping if you're looking for your forever distro, if you really don't want to have to reinstall? And like, I kind of feel like I went through a reverse distro hopping where I basically landed on Ubuntu. And the way I satisfy my distro hopping itch is I run these labs in my Proxmox cluster now. And one of the things I've been doing is I've been playing with Red Hat based distributions just to learn how that goes, and been streaming it to Rumble, me breaking things and having fun with it.
That's kind of the fun of it all, right? That experimentation, seeing what works, getting frustrated.
Found out that the image builder in the cockpit works in Red Hat based distributions, so like Fedora, CentOS, and RHEL developers account. But I banged my head up against the wall for a few hours just to find out that it won't work in Alma or Rocky because of the naming convention. So.
Oh, really? Just because of the naming convention? Huh.
Yeah.
Well, who would have thought that one? Well, very cool. I have links to your stuff here, so that'll be in the show notes.
Thank you.
Dale, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I haven't done anything this week other than doing some planning with some of the OpenSUSE guys. I have something coming that I don't want to announce yet, but stay tuned.
Sweet. That's exciting stuff right there.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm
how are
excited.
your printers? I didn't get you an answer yet.
Oh yeah.
I still get an answer.
Yeah, that's I thought I sent you an email on that. Yeah, the way that I did it in the article that I made on my website, doing it that way makes everything work.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh, let me look at that again, because I read it, but I don't remember that. I remember the part of it. So the discovery works too.
Yes. Well, with the article that I put on my website, it's the most recent article on lowtechlinux.com. It shows how to set the firewall in Tumbleweed. It shows firewall, and how to set some printer settings so that you don't have to put in a password every time you want to do something with the printers, and the firewall's still running, but it will find your printers. The firewall won't interfere with that.
Okay.
Tumbleweed's a little aggressive on their firewall settings.
Indeed. Okay. So, printer discovery. Okay, I see. So it's MDNS, IPP, and IPP client.
Yeah.
Has to be added. Okay. Got it. All right. Hey, there you got your answer, and I didn't give it to you. Awesome. Well, cool. So check that out, DaleLowTechLinux.com. He does lots of groovy things there. And I feel like Dale and I are unofficial co-collaborators on each other's works. It appears to be anyway lately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of working out that way.
Yeah. Good times. All right. Well, thank you. Full scale for me, Mike. What you got going on?
Nothing too exciting. I've transitioned from taking notes of things going on in the MX support forum and then implementing them later. I'm now doing it in near real time. For those that don't know, MX has about 22 of the 26 developers active in the forum doing support, with 8 of them almost on a daily basis or more. So when a lesson is learned about something, and there's a lot of user experts there too, beside the devs, it gets documented and put in the support wiki a lot sooner now, rather than the yearly review cycle of every new release. So getting away from staleness that people keep trying to tar baby MX Linux with, and get the support fresh.
That's awesome. I think that's important. It keeps things, good and usable. So good on you for all the work that you're doing, and obviously everyone there is they're doing that. I mean, that's also awesome that you got so many people in the support channels as well. I think that's actually one of the great things about Linux in general is there's a lot of that human element in a lot of things. So you actually have people you can talk to that can help you. That to me is the best part, really. So that's, I think it is. And, I think to lose that aspect of if everything goes like all machines, I think that'd be terrible. But anyway, what can you do? Well, thank you for being here. Warthunder.
Howdy.
Thanks for your all your woes early on.
I have plenty of them, trust me. Now work's been doing a lot lately, so I haven't done any content lately. I have a couple things coming, I can say. One is I have my Atari VCS with SteamOS on it, because I got to play, since Valve lets you install that on other things now. I said, well, I'll go see it. Found out I have no thermal paste on that machine, or at least there was, and then 105C at the Steam menu is probably not okay, so I'm going to go re-thermal paste that.
Probably, yeah, good idea.
I had some other home lab stuff. Like I said, I did tail scale and whatnot this week. And kind of note, you had one of these little netbooks. And I found, so this is a later model that has Windows 7 Starter on it. I found recovery media for this. And so I have factory restored this thing back to 2009. And I was going to do a little video on that, because I was going to use it for maybe a little terminal access, but taking notes and stuff like that. And modern Linux doesn't really run great on these little Intel Atoms. You could probably strip something down enough to get it working, but I thought, you know what? Let's just see how usable what this thing came with started as. So I got I think the drive I have in there is like a 15-year-old PNY SSD that's still kicking. I don't know why. Smart is still fine on it, so I just keep using it, and so we're going to see how it goes.
For what it's worth, I am I'd say I'm probably about 60% done with an article, and I think I may actually turn it into a video as well about how I'm using one of those with Linux, and the experience is actually quite good. I'm comparing 3 different desktop environments, all on Tumbleweed, and it is stripped down, largely stripped down, and with one intent, I'm using it just for editing Markdown files. And what I'm doing is I'm actually mounting a remote share onto it, and so when I make those changes, it's just like a distraction-free writing device, just a device to write. And I'm using my application on there as MarkLight because, well, I'm kind of a fan of Mike Chilson. I don't know if you knew that. And his work.
He makes some pretty good apps, so.
He does. And also, I wanted something lightweight. There's actually like 4 different factors as to why I'm choosing MarkLight. I actually have that listed, like what the 4 specific features are. And anyway, so I have that in there, and it's actually been really quite good. And as far as like responsiveness, how the ease of use, I'm not going to spoil as to which desktop environment is what I'm using, but it's not XFCE because. And so I'll let you know. But it's actually been been really handy. I still have to do how long it's going to, like, the battery life is on it, and I do have an SSD in there now, but I'm going to do some battery life tests to see how long it lasts, basically. Anyway, so I will tell you, Modern Linux does work on it, but it depends on what you want to do with it, really. That's really what where the problem is.
I think that's fair. I think just kind of what you're doing with yours is what I'll do with mine, because if I need to do anything more than that outside the house, I have a MacBook Air that I have MX Linux on in here that I mostly just use it for that. I pull up my Obsidian, and then it syncs with my Nextcloud, and then I just use that. So
yeah, yep, that's good stuff. Well, cool. Well, thank you for being here, Mr. Boss.
Nate. I want to start off first thing by just saying thank you again to you for bringing Linux Saloon to us every week. It's the highlight of my week, and I just love coming on here and chin wagging with you guys. So next week I'm going to continue with my Linux Bazite distro as my main PC, and I'm going to try and learn bottles, because there's one Windows program that I use that allows me to cut and paste really quickly into Twitch. About 57 commands that I've saved up over the years, but it just, even running it by Steam as a game it just doesn't work. So I've got to work out how to run a bottles environment with this program and a Windows browser, so that I know they will interact properly. But I haven't got a Scooby-Doo where to start, so I'm going to be having to hurt my brain next week to try and work that one out. You're muted, Nate.
When you run into problems, I did that on purpose. I have a really good solution for you, and that is there's a Discord and Telegram group for Linux Saloon. A lot of really helpful people on there. Well,
I've never. Have you got a link for that?
I do. It'll be in the doobly-doo below. But thanks for being here. I do enjoy it, and I love the British colloquialisms are some of my favorites, like a chin wag. I gotta remember to use that one. Gotta incorporate that into my regular lexicon. So the people I work with, they start to use that, or at least know what I'm saying. So auto drop 3D. You slipped in here. I didn't see when you slipped in, but welcome.
Yeah, I popped in right before last call there.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, it's been a little while since I've been in here, but I'm probably going to be releasing some more new kind of CAD stuff for cross-platform CAD kind of capabilities.
Yeah.
Soon. With significant 10 or 20 times better performance than the stuff I've previously kind of like demoed. So,
oh sweet. I need to give your CAD system another whirl. I think I ran into problems, and then I meant to contact you. Life got busy, and I didn't. But we definitely need to maybe another demonstration on that if you're willing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. I love when people build and create things and share them. That's probably my favorite thing about Linux Saloon. I actually have lots of favorite things. I don't know. I can't say for sure. Anyway, but thanks for being here. Eric, I don't know if you're still there, if you had to like slip away. Don't know if you're doing anything on Linux OTC. I know that's one.
No,
Oh,
I'm
there
here.
you are. Sweet.
Did you get Doobly Doo from Podcasted, the guy that does microphone reviews?
No, actually, I got it from AVE.
He must have taken. Yeah, he's the only one I've heard to do that. But yeah, he always does that. Check the Doobly Doo for the DVD or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's I got nothing. That was it. That was my big contribution. So,
okay. Well, thanks for being here.
Sure.
Jinda, do you have a
Yes,
hot wheel
Nate.
you're going to share with? Did you have a hot wheel you're going to share with us today?
No. I
Okay.
just thought that was funny. Sorry about that.
All right. Well, next week maybe.
Maybe next week. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can always ask. You can always tell me no. I'd rather you tell me no than me tell you no about your Hot Wheel.
Oh, okay. Call it whatever way you want.
So as a maybe a not funny aside, but so this week I brought my I wasn't home most of this week. I was caring for my mom, and I brought my Commodore 64 Ultimate there, and
Yeah,
I had just because I want to play with it, and I got some hardware to test and so forth. So I want to test it on that. And anyway, but there's a Hot Wheels game for the Commodore 64, and every time I hear the name Hot Wheels, I can hear the song play in my head. Because I played as a child, and so I'm hearing that song right now when you go on the expressway. Commodore 64 game, so it's that one. I don't know if there's any others, but anyway, so maybe I can share that someday. Anyway, but thanks for being here.
Thanks so much.
Then Mike Chilson, how goes it?
Pretty good, Natester. How about you?
Yeah, doing well.
Good.
Getting a lot of hits on that Marklight app.
Yeah, you gave it a mention on that podcast that you were on a week ago.
Yep, Linux Cast. Yep.
Yeah, I got 200-300 more downloads from that. So
wow. Well, fantastic.
Go Nate. So
well, I have it up right here. Like right now, it's already up, and it idles at about 115 meg right now. So its usage, just for what it's worth.
Okay. All right. Yeah. What was I? Oh yeah, I ran across a great deal from a client. They were getting rid of some ThinkPads, and I bought one of them. I think I told you about this.
Yes, you did.
They had some T440As, which had a i7 6th or 7th generation processor with I think 8 cores, and had 8 gig of RAM and like a 150 gig mechanical drive in it. And anyway, I wanted something to play with, yeah. And so I brought it home and I ordered some more RAM. I maxed it out at 12 gig and put a SSD in it, a 500 gig SSD. And, that machine, and I put MX Linux on it, by the way. And that machine pretty much runs as fast as my Carbon does, my Carbon i7, which is pretty impressive, So
yeah, it is.
Nice little machine to test things with,
Oh, for sure. There's something about those like the ThinkPads that I like the most are about the early 2010 eras. I like those, I would say.
Yeah.
Probably the most. I feel like those are very, very like serviceable. even before that they were serviceable. But I felt like those are really nice, like the 4th gen Intel, that era of them. But
Right. Yeah,
And
I
before.
think the T440s had i5s up until like the last 2 years, and they've started putting i7s in them. If I remember right, but I actually had an i5 before I had my Carbon, and yeah, I was shocked how how good performance that old laptop had. I mean, it's not slow or anything, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say if somebody's looking for a good value, look around for a used one. Pick up the hard drive and the RAM on it, and you'll be good to go.
Well, sweet. In fact, you got it for free, right? You said free.
No, I had to pay for it, but
you had to pay for it.
It was not much. Yeah, it was not much.
Next
It
to
was
free.
like $100. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Next to free.
It was a
That's
token
pretty good.
amount.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, appreciate you being here.
Always my pleasure, buddy. You are the man.
I am a man. All right. I have a website called keepinglit.com. I just released an article about my display layout that I have on it. Partially because I was asked about it with the previous article with the hybrid atomic state, and so I thought I'd actually do a complete write-up and how it's all hooked together and everything else. So you can check that out. I can't find these vertical monitors anywhere currently. Hopefully, maybe someone will start producing them again. I happen to really like them. I think they're the best productivity monitor you can buy, but maybe it's just simpler for them to create one monitor that you can just rotate. I don't know, but dual 1440p monitors I think is it's pretty great. But you can check that out at keepinglit.com. The latest post, or it will be the second latest, maybe after you watch this. So thank you for your support, however you do it, being a part of the conversation in both the Discord meeting here or voice chat and the YouTube stream, as well as for everyone who watches the show after the fact. I want to thank everyone involved in making Linux open source tools possible for us to not only have this conversation, but also to have fun and enjoy technology. Linux truly puts personal back into personal computer. Thank you for stopping by. Be sure to tip your developers, and please remember to Linux responsibly. Until next time, see yous.